Hello everyone! Lady Vashj is a name that a lot of people recognize. She's appeared quite a lot throughout Warcraft's vast history. Not surprising, as she and her people have been around for over 10,000 years. Sometimes they were living on land, and sometimes under the water. The name Vashj is something that you might recognize from a zone, the underwater zone of Vashj off the coast of Handmaiden in the Eastern Kingdoms. It wasn't always an overgrown underwater city though, and once stood as a great city of the Highborn. It is said that a great many revered elves called it home, it being one of the royal cities of the elves. The city, it was led by its beloved matron, Lestaria Vashj, who for 100 years ushered the people of the gleaming city into an age of endless prosperity. At least, if the plaque on her statue in the Kael'thas Gardens is anything to go by. It is not the deceased parent that we're discussing today, however. We're here to talk about her only known child, a daughter that we know as Lady Vashj. It's also worth mentioning that although we assume Lady is her title and Vashj is a family name, given that it's also the family name of her mother, we never find her first name mentioned anywhere. On the plaque for the statue of her mother, she is mentioned, but even here, they refer to her as simply Lady Vashj. She could be called Lady, but that isn't really a name keeping up with the highborn naming conventions. Rather a name that you give to your pets.
What a perfectly beautiful little lady.
Regardless of what her last name might be, Vashj made away from her home of Vashj, travelled to the magnificent capital of Azshara, where she took on the much coveted role of handmaiden to Queen Azshara. Azshara was a much beloved queen of their people. Regardless of her actions, like trying to summon the Burning Legion into the world, the people stood with her. Partially because she was a very powerful spellcaster and had an enchanting aura around her. The Highborn absolutely adored their queen, and Vashj was no exception. When we see her show up in the storyline for the very first time, that is serving as one of Azshara's handmaidens. Lady Vashj, it was said, was herself beautiful, but paled in comparison to the light of lights. Her clothes were similar to her queen's, but of significant less quality, and her hair was a dyed dull silver, trying to imitate the one she adored, which could not compare to Azshara's. The only thing which truly stood out about Vashj, that would be her eyes. They were silver, like most of the Highborn, but had an exotic feline curve to them. Now this story, her role as handmaiden, this takes us back to around the time of the War of the Ancients, where Tyrande Whisperwind has been kidnapped by Xavier's minions and brought back to the palace. Being their captive, Azshara makes her a most peculiar offer. To become one of her handmaidens, and if looks could have killed, Vashj's feline's eyes would have done so. The jealousy of this newcomer being invited to their court to serve her beloved queen, it was incredible, but Tyrande declined the offer. A little while later, Vashj entered her prison chamber under the pretense of setting her free. She was a priestess of Elune after all. Of course, Vashj was going to help her to a swift death. As soon as Tyrande was outside of her magical bubble which kept her imprisoned, Vashj tried to kill the priestess with a pointed demonic artifact. Hissing that Tyrande would never be Azshara's favorite. It would always be her. Tyrande didn't even want to be favored, but Vashj didn't listen. Her warrior training was all that saved Tyrande. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to make use of the opportunity. Vashj simply placed her back in her prison, promising to come back later to finish the job. But that moment never came. Instead, the war played out with the Night Elf Rebellion being victorious. Her devotion to Azshara ultimately meant that after the Great Sundering, when the Well of Eternity collapsed the land of Kalimdor and it sundered apart, she, along with the rest of Azshara's followers, they were dragged beneath the waves.
It is over.
Azshara, as those of you that play Battle for Azeroth, as you know, she made a deal with the old goddess of to be saved from this frozen death in the frigid seas. The queen and all her people, including the devoted Vashj, they accepted the bargain and were transformed into what we know them as today, transformed into the Naga. The Naga lurked beneath the waves for some 10,000 years, doing what the Naga do. Until a newly freed Illidan Stormrage, enemy to both his own kind and seemingly everyone else, he sought new allies in his quest to kill the Lich King, a task given to him by Kil'jaeden. The demon hunter had heard only rumors of the Highborn's fate. Whether they were true, he did not know, but when he cast a powerful spell to reach the Highborn in the ocean deeps, they answered the call. A group of scaled serpentine beings rose up from the depths. An army of scale and fang led by Lady Vashj, answering Illidan's call. They did not answer because of loyalty to the elves, or even out of blind curiosity. They answered because the old gods who had transformed them into these Naga and saved their lives, they willed them to do so. These powerful ancient beings saw in Illidan the potential to start another war in Azeroth. One that would envelop the undead, the world's nations and the Legion. With that kind of turmoil consuming the world, their forces could focus on awakening the old gods relatively unopposed. And if the former Night Elf became troublesome, so be it. The old god would simply command the Naga to cut out his foul corrupted heart. So they rose from the water. Tridents held, hisses escaping from their throats, and the snakes, which now took the place of Vashj's hair, to answer Illidan's call. Their forces would help Illidan cross the Great Sea and arrive on the Broken Isles. It was here that Illidan sought a strong artifact, one needed for his mission. Inside the Tomb of Sargeras, there lay the Eye of Sargeras, and with it amplifying his power, he could strike the frozen throne from a greater distance. The Naga forces helped him gain entry, and Illidan found the artifact that he sought. Not a moment too soon either. Watchers, his jailers who were hell-bent on getting him back inside of his lonely prison, they flooded into the tomb. With the artifact amplifying his power, they stood little hope against him. Of the Watchers that confronted Illidan in the tomb, only their leader, Mayev's Shadow Song, only she survived. And while the Eye, though powerful, it was not as powerful as he had expected, so he couldn't hit the frozen throne quite yet. The distance simply too great. Illidan was going to need a new source of magic to add to the artifact, and in turn amplify his abilities, and so it was that he set his sights upon Dalaran. It was Lady Vashj and the Naga that Illidan sent out to scout out the ley lines of Dalaran. Although it had attracted the attention of the Lich King, who in turn sent his own forces out to deal with Illidan and his allies. Eventually, he was able to harness the power of these ley lines and attack the Lich King in his frozen throne. They were only moments away from destroying the Lich King, cracking the icy prison which concealed the actual entity, but moments was all it took for the combined forces of the Night Elves and the Blood Elves, led on by his brother Malfurion, to come crashing into Illidan's forces, throwing his focus into disarray, and the Eye itself crumbling before him. Lady Vashj and her forces, they received heavy losses on that day. They skulked away to the safety of Lordamer Lake. Illidan had ordered them to find new allies for their cause, while he would actually help Malfurion with save at Tyrande, and then flee to Outland to escape the wrath of Kil'jaeden, having failed him in his mission to kill the Lich King. Once recuperated in the safety of the lake, and when the time was right, Vashj set about a task of gaining allies for Illidan, with somebody in mind.
Damn. We'll have to find a way across the lake to reach the outlying gold mine. Naga, you fought for the demon Illidan.
We are on our own now, good prince. I am called Lady Vashj. My brethren and I come in peace to offer you our aid.
You have nothing I need, witch.
Is that so? I thought you might require boats to reach the observatories you seek.
And you would give these freely? Why should I trust you, my lady?
Our two races share a common ancestry, Kael. Now, against the undead, we share a common peril. These boats are merely a gesture of goodwill.
Then, I accept your offer. Thank you.
Kael'thas Sunstrider and his Blood Elves. They'd seen some harsh times recently. Arthas blowing up their sunwell, it revealed their addiction to magic. Their lands, it was ravaged by the undead scourge, and now they found themselves working with the Alliance, led by Kael'thas. The man saw other races than the humans as beneath them. The elves were belittled and beleaguered, placed on impossible tasks that pushed them further and further away, right into the welcoming arms of Vashj.
Prince Kael, they've taken over our outlying bases. We're completely surrounded.
Those bases are lost. We'll just have to improvise.
Ishnu Daldir, Prince Kael. We've come to join your fight against the vile dead.
Greetings, Lady Vashj. I would welcome your aid gladly, but the commander I serve does not approve of your kind.
I do not see him here sharing your peril. Let me bolster your forces with my own. If not, you and your brethren will surely fall.
What you say is true, but I accept your offer, Vashj.
Our Lady had been watching the Blood Elves. She saw this rift growing. She had seen them grow resentful. She had seen the fatigue set upon their shoulders, and the morale drip away to nothing. Just like she had bided her time and waited for the opportune moment to attack Tyrande over 10,000 years ago, Vashj had simply watched the Blood Elves and waited for the perfect time to make a move. Now, with the morale of his people so low, she knew that Kael'thas would be more amenable to her offer. Kael'thas, however, remained wary of the Naga. But later, when Gerithos sent the Blood Elves on a suicide mission to maintain the front line, when Vashj once again offered the assistance of the Naga, Kael'thas, he was in no position to turn her down. With their support, the Blood Elves drove the Scourge army back and completed their mission.
Prince Kael, Grand Marshal Gerithos has arrived. He has brought a full battalion with him.
Damn. Vashj, you'd best leave. I cannot guarantee your people's safety.
Naga warriors!
Forget about them! So, Kael, you've shown your true colors at last. I knew you were in league with those serpents. Now I have all the proof I need to execute every traitorous one of you.
But accepting the aid of the Naga, it was seen by Gerithos as an act of unforgivable treason. Instead of showing their appreciation to the Blood Elves, they bound their hands in chains and locked them away in Dalaran's dungeons to await the execution.
Greetings, Kael. I assume we're not too late?
On the contrary, Vashj, your timing is impeccable. Once again, I am in your debt.
All that was waiting for them now, it was death. Was it not for Vashj sneaking into the dungeon and setting the prince free? Once again, she offers these poor, unfortunate souls her aid. And with little binding them to the Alliance, binding them to these lands, the addiction slowly eating away at them, the prince believed that this was the right move for his people. Illidan could offer them their best chance at freedom. And on Outland, he had seemingly escaped the wrath of Kil'jaeden. So it was that Kael'thas and Vashj, they journeyed there as well, finding their way to the portal through Gerithos and his men. But Illidan had not been as elusive as he had hoped to be, and he had been followed through the portal by Warden Mayev's shadow song. Without his allies, Illidan had once again been captured by Maiev, and was now in a Warden prison wagon. After Vashj and Kael'thas wandered through the barren land for a couple of days, they eventually caught sight of Maiev and her watchers. Capturing Illidan was about the extent of Mayev's plan. That accomplished, they kind of found themselves stranded in Outlands, unable to make their way back home. And before the Watchers could take Illidan any further, Vashj and Kael'thas struck. Naga and Blood Elves emerged from the dusty wastelands and drove Maiev and her Watchers scrambling into the wilderness, quickly freeing Illidan from his prison.
Lady Vashj, your rescue was most timely. The thought of spending another 10,000 years in Maev's prison was not a pleasant one.
We could not forsake you, Lord Illidan, but you owe your freedom to them.
After briefly talking to his new followers, Illidan revealed his next plan. He would seize control of Outland. He would wrestle it from the grip of Macferiden and the Legion by shutting down the numerous portals through which the Legion troops access the world. And then Illidan and his army, they would assault the seat of Macferiden's power, the Black Temple in Shadowmoon Valley. Kael'thas believed that Illidan was his best chance at freeing their people from the grip of their addiction, although the benefits for Vashj, they seem much less obvious. She never hesitated in supporting his plans. Because we have to remember that she originally was sent over in Order of the Old Gods. The war that Illidan was supposed to cause, it didn't really happen. Nor was there any sign of going back to Azeroth at this point in time. It might be that it was the elf's natural charms that drew in Vashj. She was, after all, part of the group of the Handmaidens that cleaned him up after Sargeras had burned out his eyes. Perhaps seeing how he was gifted by Sargeras, how our queen had such high regard for the then sorcerer. Perhaps that history played a big part in why she remained so loyal. Either way, it was not long until it was time for their assault on the Black Temple. They'd even added more allies to the ranks, with the Broken Draenei that made up the Ashtongue tribe, led by Akama. The army of MacFerdan, it fell before the combined might of Illidan's army. With alarming efficiency and in alarming speed, Illidan had confronted the Pit Lord MacFerdan and had him waiting for death. Illidan could have very well have killed him, but he was more useful to him alive than dead. He had seen how demon's blood had turned orcs into crazed beasts, and crazed orcs were something he could use. They restrained the pit lords and gave the rest of the surviving defenders an ultimatum. They could either join him or they could die. Most chose to join Illidan. Some of the demons even bowed their heads in acceptance of this offer. Now Kael'thas and Akama, they were less than happy with demons joining their ranks, but Illidan assured them that this presented an opportunity to learn more about the demons without having to kill them. While Lady Vashj, she said nothing. She and the Naga would follow Illidan regardless.
What is this, Vashj? Where did this storm come from?
Keep your head down, fool. Something terrible is drawing near.
These displays of bravado, they did not go unnoticed for long, and Kil'jaeden appeared in a fiery image before them. He was not seeking his vengeance just yet, however. A second chance was given to complete their mission, to return to Azeroth and finish off the Lich King. With Akama and the Ashtongue left behind to secure the Black Temple, Illidan, Kael'thas and Lady Vashj, they traveled to the Frozen Throne with the rest of their forces. The race was on to see who could reach the top of Icecrown first and complete their mission. Vashj, Illidan and Kael'thas, sent over by Kil'jaeden, or Arthas and Anubarak, trying to reach their master in time. And while Vashj and the others gave it all in their battle, ultimately it was Arthas that claimed his victory, striking Illidan down and merging with the Lich King. But for some reason, he did not take the killing blow, which gave Vashj and the others the chance to return to Outland, where they could lick their wounds. Ever working on Illidan's ultimate goal, the end of the Burning Legion. And it's on Outland where Lady Vashj remained, utterly loyal to Illidan. She helped the now self-proclaimed Lord of Outland to gain control. Illidan was certain that Kil'jaeden would not forget his failure so easily, and sought to bolster their defenses, working on secret plot and schemes to overthrow the demons. Now Lady Vashj, she sent her champion, High Warlord Nagentis, along with a group of Naga to guard the sewer entrance into the Black Temple. Illidan, he worked on building his own Fel Orc army by using the blood of that captured Pit Lord MacFerdan, whom he had held beneath Hellfire Citadel. Illidan did not just want the land of Outland, he also wanted to secure its people. To gain control over them, he sent his most loyal supporter, Lady Vashj of course, and the Naga, to drain the marshlands of the Zenga Marsh. This was going to be their first step in their plan to drain the waters of Outland. Through their subsequent thirst and droughts, he would hold power and sway over those that called this planet home. With the Burning Crusade, adventurers could finally see for themselves what Vashj was up to when they entered the Coilfang Reservoir dungeon. This sprawling cavern, it now acted as a pumping station through which Vashj and her Naga, they would drain the waters of the marsh, braving their way through the slave pens to cut down the traitorous slave masters, slaying the powerful creatures held in the Underbog, and shutting down the heart of the huge pumping system within the Steam Vault. It brought this entire operation to a staggering halt, but the adventurers were not done quite yet. They pushed on to the Serpent's Shrine Cavern, where Lady Vashj herself oversaw the operation to control the waters of the lands. Inside, they cut down some of Vashj's most loyal and most powerful lieutenants, like Hydros the Unstable, a water elemental which constantly swaps between water form and poison form, the Lurker below, which they fished up from a strange pool, such an easy fight that people apparently called it the Loot Below, Leophras the Blind, one of the Blood Elves offered by Kael'thas to enroll into the Become a Demon Hunter program. The training offered by Illidan, it was not for the faint of heart, and Leophras, he lost himself to madness. Then there's Fathom Lord Carefres and his Fathom guards, as well as Morogrim Tidewalker, a massive sea giant with a whole bunch of Murloc followers. All of them, they fell before the hero's blades, until only Lady Vashj remained.
Water is life. It has become a rare commodity here in Outland, a commodity that we alone shall control. We are the Highborn, and the time has come at last for us to retake our rightful place in the world.
Vashj, loyal to the end, does not go down without a fight. Enchanted elementals slowly creep up the platform, increasing her size and power. It's the Tainted Ones that become our salvation. As their tainted core, it can be used to deactivate her shield generator, which allows us to finish the job and finish her life.
Lord Illidan, I am sorry.
With death knocking, it's Lord Illidan that's on our minds. Interesting that the demon hunter himself also thought of someone as he gasped his final breath. He did not think of Vashj, but of Tyrande. Bit of a shame really that Tyrande, she once again stole the affection of someone that Vashj was super loyal to, but that's the life of a constant number 2. And with her death in the Burning Crusade, that is pretty much where Vashj's story ended. We are traveling to the afterlife in the next expansion. The Shadowlands awaits, so who knows what kind of role she is going to play. And her character was so badass that they also decided to add it to Hearthstone. She even becomes an alternate shaman hero portrait if you pre-ordered the latest adventure. But all in all, this is where the story of Lady Vashj ends.
Illidan will show us the path to power.
Hopefully one day we're going to find out what her real first name is going to be. But for now, really hope you enjoyed diving into the story. As always, thank you very much for watching. You can subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!